Hello and welcome to the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. As you know, we are facing extreme censorship alongside many other truth seekers out there. If you want to support the show, please go over to mattbelair.com, sign up for the email list, become a member for exclusive and censorship free content by donation or for free. And most importantly, consider doing three kind acts wherever you are in the world today. Today's guest is the founder of the Life Awareness Project. He has been traveling around the world encountering knowledge for his passion for body and mind work, especially meditation, yoga, qigong, and breath work. He focuses on training mind and body to help each person to get to know their real nature and essence to help free their mind. Welcome to the show, Michaël Bijker.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for having me on your wonderful show. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. It's we're having a great dialogue before we jumped in. You're in beautiful Portugal. I got a chance to kind of look at some of your work and your writing and your interviews, and like I said at the beginning of this, you're actually living the yoga lifestyle. You're kind of living those principles. I don't know if I'd call it a simple life, but it's, you're connected with nature, you're engaged in the practice, you're producing a lot of content and a lot of training, and you're actively trying to support people and bring that mission forward, bring those teachings that you found helpful for yourself and your students forward so people can engage in them and free their mind and free their spirit and, help them. So I just appreciate you. You have a very wonderful spirit. Do you want to just introduce yourself to the audience and let them know a little bit about yourself and your work?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, wonderful everybody that is watching now. Very great. I'm sure we're gonna have a great talk together. So my name is Michaël. Yeah, my life mission, I would say, and that's why I do it with so much love and passion, is to just share what I found has really helped me in my life, and that is basically how to stay healthy, how to live happy, but more importantly, how to kind of live in a feeling of connection with a greater life than ourselves, the great flow of life, the divine spirit, universe, God, great spirit. And because I've seen when I was younger, I've seen a lot of suffering in people's lives, and well, thank God, I always felt kind of this connection with life, and always felt kind of uplifted, and I understood a bit the way of the mind and the spirit, and I thought, like, how can I start helping a little bit these people? And then I got in contact a lot with yoga and qigong and breath work after I had a big car accident when I was 18, and some doctors said I would maybe not heal from a lot of ailments, like my spine was broken on two spots, and I was paralyzed on the right side for some time. But yeah, thank God I got in connection with a lot of wonderful techniques, and I saw the power that one has with the mind and the breathing, how many beautiful changes one can make in their own lives. And then it was my mission to just share that knowledge with others. So yeah, I hope to keep doing it myself, obviously, but to also inspire many people to use that power that you have within you.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. I didn't know about the car accident part. What I did notice when I was kind of going through was that, you've been doing this since you've been 14. And I love that because I haven't seen or had a lot of guests that have been doing this since their teenage years. And most people have an awakening, right? They kind of go through life and society tries to pigeonhole you down a thing where you get a career, you get 2.5 kids, you get a car, and then you get a nicer car and a nicer house. And then something happens in their life, whether it's an injury, car accident, illness, usually an illness from like having a very terrible lifestyle. And then they're like, what am I doing? And then they kind of come over to the side. So I loved how, you've been doing this since your teenage years, which I think is rare. And what I I went through your Udemy and you have all these great courses, extensive qigong, and I did that when I was in, the Shaolin Academy in China, which I really enjoyed. And the movement, I feel like, is important. You have breath work, meditation. You have a lot of great stuff in here. And what I wanted to ask you and kind of lead this into is, I like techniques. I like techniques for mindfulness, for a clear mind, for a healthy body. And you've been exploring these concepts for a long time. And what I've noticed from a lot of my clients that I coach and people walking into this, they get a little bit overwhelmed, because if you're kind of new to yoga or spirituality or mindfulness or meditation, it can feel a bit overwhelming. So maybe you can share like a beginner's guide to from for like all these amazing things that you've done. What can someone do? What are the most powerful techniques or processes you've learned for clearing the mind, healthy body, or healing yourself, which is a very powerful story.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, there are some very simple movement techniques and simple breathing techniques, and that you can do. And I've got this 7-day program, which all has all these techniques in it. But it's good to make a choice for yourself. Like, okay, what is the state of being? What I want to achieve in my life? Do I want to feel uplifted? Do I want to feel energized? Okay, this is probably what everybody that listening now wants, right? To feel peace of mind, to feel joy, to feel happy. Okay, how much time a day am I willing to spend for this? Make that choice. Now you can say, well, maybe about 30 minutes a day, right? Maybe 20 minutes a day. Okay, then make that choice. Every day I'm gonna do something. Then there are a big variety of options, but there are some very simple techniques or sequences, like 5 minutes of just a bit of stretching. And whether that is yoga or whether that is qigong or whether that is just a bit of fitness, all good. There is just some very simple stretches, and there's many different options out there. Just 5 minute workout or 5 minute stretch. I've got some stuff on YouTube for free that people can check out. But just 5 minutes of a bit of connecting your mind and your body, feeling your body, and taking some deep breaths. Now, then taking a little bit of time, also maybe just 5 minutes or 10 minutes, to just do some simple deep breathing. Just sit, take some deep breaths in through the nose, and with the breath out, you let go. You will see, if you do just 5 deep, calm breaths like this, already you have connected a little bit more with your body, with your breath. You have calmed the mind a little bit. Now, you will become better and better at this. For instance, if you do this for 7 days in a row, every day, just taking 5 minutes to do some stretching, 10 minutes to do a little bit of breathing, you will become better and better at kind of connecting your breathing with your state of mind and your state of heart. So you will feel that with the breath out, it becomes easier and easier to kind of let go, to empty your mind. Just make yourself a bit more at peace. Okay. And if you train yourself, you will rewire your whole brain, your whole emotional states of being all these habitual patterns of feeling and thinking. You can reprogram that with a couple of simple exercises. So I would recommend people, if you want to change, commit yourself every day, taking about 15, maybe 20 minutes a day in the morning to just do a couple of light stretches, to sit, to do a couple of nice deep breaths, and then you will see a great change happening after a couple of days.
I love that. It's very simple, and I agree with the commitment and consistency to just draw it out and make it simple. Say, how do you want to feel? What do you want to improve on? Then make that commitment, and then make the commitment of doing something every single day. And that's really where the power is. It's more about consistency than saying, okay, on Saturday, I'm going to do 6 hours of yoga and breath work and all this kind of stuff. But if you do 15 minutes a day, you're actually going to get a much better result because you integrate it in your way of being. That's how you live. It's like, you're only going to eat fruits, on Saturday, and eat as much fruit as you can. But through the week, you're only going to eat, Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's or whatever. You're going to get a much better result if you kind of putting it in your lifestyle and your way of being. So I love that. So for the kind of person that's a little bit Well, okay, let's stick with the beginner right now. What can they expect with the practice? Because I feel like they're very hesitant to dive in. And I feel like a lot of people, they want to get something, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'll do the yoga if I can get something. What do you kind of recommend for the beginner to kind of go through and just engage with the practice? And then how do things change for them? Like, what can they expect, after a little bit of practice?
Now, um, first of all, uh, you will become a little bit more aware of your states of mind, of your overthinking that a lot of people can have, or constant returning pattern of emotional states that come up, of feeling anxious or feeling stressed or feeling this or feeling that. And you will become more aware of that, and you will notice, like, okay, most of the times you have a choice, kind of resisting the feeling, of trying to kind of close your ears, like, I don't want to feel it, or I just distract myself from feeling the way I feel, and I will eat a lot of chocolate, or watch Netflix, or uh, do a lot of things just to ignore your feelings and your states of being. You will become able to observe it, like feeling like, now I'm a little bit stressed. I notice it. I feel there's a lot of tension in my shoulder. I'm sitting maybe behind the computer or driving my car. I'm actually very tensed. And then you are able to take, for instance, a couple of nice calm breaths and just let go a little bit. Okay. Instead of thinking about the thing that happened in the past, what you're stressed about, or the thing that will happen in the future that you're stressed about, you bring the awareness into the moment, and you notice, like, okay, I'm just letting go for a little moment, center myself, and then I let go. And this sounds like not much, but it's everything, to be able to become more in peace with life and to flow a bit more with life. Otherwise, you're constantly in a mode of thinking about something about the past or the future, or stressed, or maybe feeling restless. And you will become able to, moment by moment, uh, return yourself into the present moment and create a state of a bit of space in your life. So being more aware helps to kind of prevent yourself from being in a constant mode of stress. And it will also help yourself to make the right choices in life, that you will feel like, okay, what is it that you really want in life? Are you living really the way you want to live in life, or are you just following what other people say, or are you just living kind of for yourself a mediocre life because you don't really choose what you love, but you don't do the things that you're afraid of to do, otherwise you will maybe fail or something like that. To really get in connection with your heart's desire and live from that foundation, and that's a very powerful thing as a human being to live from.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I love all that. And I also agree with the immense power of noticing how you feel and giving yourself that bit of space, because that bit of space and that bit of awareness is freedom. Because if you wake up and you're stressed or you're anxious or you're depressed or you're angry or you're in a lower feeling or emotional state, then you're going to just continue that feeling that all day, every day. You're always a victim of how you feel. Now, the second you notice it, you might have to go through that feeling for a little bit, but then you get an opportunity to make a choice, to add a perspective to it, to do something, to change something, to connect to your breath, to do a few deep breaths or something like that. And what it does is reset. You begin to notice and you can begin to take control. And from this, then you can then set an intention. So you have a lot more creative power, a lot more willpower. And so it's an incredibly powerful thing. And interestingly, most people are unable to do that, to clear their mind for just a few seconds, to reset. And the key foundation of this is to just notice when you're in a lower state, anger, fear, frustration, high stress. Just stop for a moment, take a deep breath, connect to your heart, do whatever you want. You can do a breathing technique, just something simple. I just say 3 deep breaths. Don't complicate it. Focus on your heart, take 3 deep breaths. And what that does is going to give you a little reset in the body. And then from there, you're going to have options. And now you have choice, you have a bit of freedom. And I love what you said about living in the heart. I feel like that is so important. I had a person reach out recently because I started a coaching group, and the whole point of it is to help people find their life purpose or vocation, like who they came here to be, ruthless spiritual integrity. Who did you come here to be? What did you come here to learn? And a lot of the stuff out there is about acquiring stuff, right? I will be this person when I make this amount of money, right? Or when I make this amount of money, then I'll engage with this practice. But I feel like it's reversed. I feel like we need to focus on who we are, who we came here to be, develop and master those skills and share that with others. And we'll receive and we'll be able to live in abundance like you're living in abundance in Portugal. You know what I mean? And then there's amazing things. And I looked in one of your course, it just talks about redefining success. And that's what a big thing I'm trying to help people understand a lot of the time with the coaching, because I've noticed no matter what the number is that they've had in their bank, I've worked with multimillionaires, you know what I mean? Like lots and lots of money. And they'll be figuring out how to stabilize and grow the business, even though over here is their heart-centered vision. So they have millions of dollars, but they still are growing. And I was like, look, just stabilize that. Don't set it on fire. You've made it, right? But now put 80 or 90% or 100% of your attention on what the thing is you want to do. You're stable now. So I'd love for you to speak on that idea. And then before I forget, I'd love for you to speak on the power of the mind and what you think is possible, because you went through a healing. I've had a lot of guests on the show that have done extraordinary healings. Dr. Joe Dispenza's work has a lot of interesting science and documentation around that, and I've trained in that as well. And I feel like the doctors that I now know from everything that's going on, when they talk about terrain theory, clean food, clean water, getting the body into a proper state with proper nutrition, with the mindset and the spirituality integrated, the body is capable of absolutely extraordinary things. And so I'll leave it at that and let you chime in with your thoughts.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you, Matt. It's I think we live now in a way of living where we tell ourselves and we teach our children that to be able to reach something or feel an experience, you have to first achieve something. So in order to feel happy or to feel at peace or to feel in abundance, you first have to do something and get that nice bicycle or that nice car or that nice this and that, and then you're gonna feel happiness. And you will always be dependent on something outside of yourself, a relationship, your status in the world, or however, we learn nothing about how to become able to already feel that state of abundance, which is already within. It's a quality of the soul. It's a quality of your pure consciousness to feel already abundance and love and happiness and joy within. It's the quality of your source. So unfortunately, we learn as if there is emptiness within, but you have to fill it up with something outside of yourself. The truth of this reality is, though, that we are also have a great creative power within. It's also part of our divine quality to be able to create things in life, not just with your physical hands and but you have a certain idea, and from that idea reality starts to transform itself in a way that it becomes a reality. So instead of trying to feel that state of abundance by doing something outside of yourself, you can also do it the opposite way. You feel a state of abundance within and feel that state of connectiveness and love and everything you look for in life. And then it's like a mirror. These things will somehow unfold themselves in your physical life as well. So you can live in inner abundance, and then your outer world, it's like reality becomes a reflection of your state of being. So you can live in real abundance, not because you have so many things in a second house and maybe a big fat yacht or a super nice car, but you feel that abundance within, and you can live without any worries about money, about all these things, because life it kind of gives you, there's a flow of receiving and giving. And another important thing is also that um, unfortunately, and this is something that you have been training in, and I have been training in, and like you say, people like Joe Dispenza have done a lot of research with that and scientific evidence, but that there is such a great power within of how to generate states of being that you can really influence your life in a great way. And this is something we learn nothing about, unfortunately, from a young age, how to find joy and happiness and abundance in life by training mind and body. It's what happens a lot is that children feel a bit of pressure about getting good grades, or looking good for the other kids, or so busy about what other opinions of them are, and trying to change the opinions of other people to feel that security and peace within themselves, whereas they should learn to feel it within themselves, and then it will come as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And it's interesting because if you think about the external world to bring the inner validation, one of the things that I've shared that was a big insight for me when I was coaching once was like, if you can't feel whole and content with where you are now, with what like what you know about a subject, with what you have, with your relationships, with everything in your life, if you can't feel whole and content and harmonious and full of self-love in that moment, there's no other thing that's going to help you fill that. You might believe it's a partner, you might believe it's a house, you might believe it's one of these things, but the actual truth is it's not. And I haven't mastered this in any way. You know what I mean? I call myself sometimes like the grumpy monk. I read about Zen and spirituality, and I have these beautiful guests on to remind me of these teachings, right? And so I think maybe one of the things I'm realizing now is one of the podcasts helps me because I have these beautiful reminders, as I go about my day and I kind of stress out and do the different things and do the practices. I have an actual human being on the other side reminding me of these teachings because they're fundamentally true. And so that's what I like to share with my students. I'd like to say, hey, if you can get to the place, and I say, I don't know how exactly, I'm there sometimes, to be whole, content, harmonious, full of self-love and worth wherever you are now in that process, and then engage in a meaningful, fulfilling pursuit, you're crushing it. That's the yin yang behind me. I feel like we have this intentional power as creators, but we have this abundance and connection within that is always accessible, and it doesn't require anything outside of us. And that fundamental shift is so important.
Absolutely. And I think also what we sometimes seem to forget, what we learn a lot when we are children in the system we're living in now, is that you need to get something to feel abundance and happiness, where it's actually kind of the opposite. As soon as you start just giving and sharing things, it will make you so happy. If the focus is not on what can I gain for myself, but what can I add to the world and add into other people's life, there is suddenly this kind of shift, that you stop living out of an emptiness that you have to fill up, but you start to live from an abundance that you can overflow, that you can share. And this is one of the great yeah, let's say powers of giving and gratitude and sharing, that you're giving, but you're actually receiving so much yourself as well. And somehow it is almost a universal law. What you give, you will receive back. So learning to use that kind of knowledge and really implement it in your life, and see the wonderful changes it brings.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And you know, it's funny because I just watched Groundhog Day the other day with Bill Murray, and
Me
it's such.
too.
Oh, did you? Oh, amazing! Yeah, and
Oh,
it's
that's
such a
beautiful.
spiritual movie, you know, because it's been a long time since I've seen it, and he basically goes through the process, and he's very selfish, you know what I mean, and he's living his life a different way. And there was one part of the movie that really got to me when he was at the bar and he's talking to these two people and he's like, do you ever feel like your life is meaningless? You just wake up every day and it's always the same thing and nothing matters. And the guy at the bar says, yeah, like that's my life. And I feel like so many people feel like that. We're lost in these, you know, meaningless lives, and they're meaningless because we don't find meaning. The individual is not finding meaning in there. So it is up to the individual to find that meaning. And the wonderful thing is that you are the remedy. You just might have to let go of. And I feel like even in the spiritual community, one of the things I'm always coming up against is this: I got to get something. Well, I
Yeah,
can't let go of this unless I get that. I'm like, well, that's your anchor. That's what's bringing you down. You have to let go of all that so then you can gain so much more. And then when Bill Murray switched to giving authentically for a period of time and he stopped trying to get, then he clued in, and the next day he's like, what can I do for you now? What can I do for you today? And it's a very powerful way of being, because I've seen this when I was in Nepal, and all these other countries where people didn't have a lot. It's this perspective that we need to get more things. And if you look at, you know, people who have a lot, which is fine to have a lot, but if they don't have it without that balance, it doesn't matter if you get into a Ferrari and you go home to a $10 million house. If you're empty inside, no amount of helicopter or cool thing is going to help. It's just you're going to be empty. It's really that simplicity that's so important, and inverting that thinking, because you can have abundance, you can have your needs taken care of, you can have a house, you can have all those things. It's just balancing out that integrity within yourself to move towards meaning and service is a total 180 on how we're taught to live our lives.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing. The whole it's not really to criticize the system that we're living in or something, but it's all about you have something, you do something for the other day, you get some form of money back, or you, and then you have money for yourself and you keep it for yourself. It's very much creating islands of for the soul, when actually there is a unity in reality, a unity for of the soul on a deeper layer of this reality. So um yeah, I think there is a kind of uh, big shift happening for that we start to understand that, like, hey, this is not the way to live life, just to get money. You let people work really hard in factories, or you burn a whole forest just to dig a mine and to get money to make you happy. It's more, I hope at least, that it becomes something of that the real richness of somebody is in how much you can share, how much you can give, because we are tribal people in a way. We have been millions of years ago surviving because we worked together, because we helped each other, because we shared everything, and this is a quality which is within us, to share and to feel happy with sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all that. And so, well, there's a lot of things we could dive into. You know, with your courses on, I think it's Udemy, you know, you've had 43, almost 44,000 people go through your courses. And I recommend people check those out because they're very inexpensive. I'm browsing through now, and they're incredibly reasonably priced. And there's going to be a lot of information in there. So, you know, go through and start practicing, starting engaging in some of these things. And, you know, you have a lot of courses on mindfulness and the power of the mind. And so the way I want to kind of direct this question is, if we are in a world now, right? Most people, they have bills to pay, they have kids, they're trying to move forward. How can we design our lives from a place of power, you know, and authenticity, and then move forward in architecting it? Because if we don't have the money to pay for things, right? That's what people always say, well, that's great, but I live in the real world and you need money to pay for things. So how do you recommend people kind of uh, architect and build their lives from a place of authenticity, and then move forward and build it, with all the struggles and the challenges that come from living in the real world and paying rent and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, good one. Um, it's kind of reprogramming a little bit your own state of mind and in your own emotional state again. And by the way, if people don't have money to pay for my courses, they can always send an email and they get the course for free. It has to be about sharing. Like I said, it makes me happy to share. So if you don't have money, don't worry about it. Just send an email and you get it for free. The thing is, uh, things like gratitude, just feeling grateful, even if you have problems paying your bills. And I really feel for the people that are listening now. I feel for you, feeling that pressure constantly and feeling squeezed between job and not having time and all these things. But learn to feel little moments of gratitude. Sometimes if you have food in front of you, take a little moment like, okay, wonderful, I got food in front of me. And also if you have maybe uh, before you go to sleep, think of 3 things that you're thankful for, that you have maybe a roof over your head, all these simple basic things. In the beginning it's maybe hard to feel gratitude, but like learning to play the piano, you will become better and better when you practice more and more every day to start generating these states of being. So you will be able to feel little moments of gratitude, little moments. And if you do it more and more, these moments will become bigger. And like we were talking about before, that your state of heart and your state of mind will reflect back into your physical reality as well. So as soon as you will start to feel grateful and focus on the things that are already good in your life and you feel contentment with, your focus will shift from focusing on and kind of only seeing what is not yet good and what is terrible and what there is to complain about life, but it will be shifting it towards what is already good in life and to feel gratitude. And all of the sudden it's like a mind shift starts to happen, because you will start to also see all the opportunities that are there in your life. You will see that there, hey, I can actually change something, do this, and then some things will change in my life. Or you will notice that um, yeah, all of a sudden some opportunities will come into your life that you first normally maybe didn't see, or your mind filtered out because you were only focused on the negative side. But you will focus on the positive side, and some things will change in your life. So learning to train yourself to feel little moments of gratitude, even for just breathing. Take a nice breath and feel that space in the moment. And once you do that more and more, your brain will rewire, your state of emotion system will rewire, and it will bring this state of being into your whole life as well.
Oh man, well, I love all that, because I'm thinking that there's a huge difference between people who say what you're saying, but then also practice it. And it seems so simple, right? When you're stuck in everyday life, you say, just take a deep breath, and that person who's very busy is like, shut up, you hippie. That's not going to help. And so, but when you integrate it over time, you get those spaces of the mind, because when the mind is full and it's on a hamster wheel going crazy, there is no space for opportunity, for new information, for new thoughts, for you to be connected to nature or God or source or spirit, to empty the mind. And one of the ways I've heard meditation put before was prayer is speaking to God and meditation is listening. Some sort of mindfulness, some sort of quieting the mind. And if your mind is always full, what happens is all of those thoughts generate feelings in the body, and most of those feelings are negative. They're anxious, they're stressed, they're depressed, and all these different things. But what this does is it teaches you actually have that control of your central nervous system, of your body, and your emotional states. And so when you get that control back, over time, you're going to get more spaces. So you're going to be able to see more. You're going to be able to see more opportunities. You're going to feel more inspiration. You're going to feel more inspired. And so it's very simple, but very, very practical advice. And I appreciate it. So, I think there's a big difference between people who kind of do the poster board, vision board of it, but then integrating it, and you will have that experience.
That is so important, and it's simple practices, right? It's just uh, when you have a plate of food in front of you, instead of eating it and thinking about all these worries that you might have, just take a little moment, take 2 breads or 3 breads. Personally, I very much believe in God and higher spirit. I always say grace to my food. But even if you don't believe in it, say grace to the nature, to the plant. Take a little moment to feel like, hey, I have food in front of me. I could also be starving from hunger, it's like some people are in the world. And in the beginning, this is maybe very difficult, but you can train yourself. It's like a muscle that is very weak because you have not been using it for so long. But if you train it a little bit every day, it will become stronger and stronger. And this whole neural pathway of your brain, how you experience life and how you make your choices, you will influence in a wonderful way. So all these moments where you can take a couple of breaths, where you can feel gratitude, or if you see a nice cloud formation, if you are on a walk, or some flowers, even if it's just for 1 or 2 seconds to be still and notice, like, okay, wonderful, okay, and then carry on with your life, integrating it.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And I kind of equate that to like a lens, like we're looking through life and it's all dirty with these negative thoughts that are just habitual. What we're doing is we're just cleaning the lens of our view of the world out. And eventually that begins to integrate in our way of being, in our state of being, in our entire outlook. So it just takes a little bit of time, done consistently. And so just take it step by step. One of the things I want to ask you, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just about that lens, which is a very interesting thing because it works both ways. And the lens of how it comes in to our lives, how it's filtered out, or what we see, uh, but also it works the other way. It's like a projector. So the things that we project into our life, the things what we create, if there's a lot of specks and dirt on the lens, and you project, like a projector it on the wall, you see all these specks and dirt parts as well in even bigger. So that's why it's so important that lens, the filters of your mind on how you perceive life and how you create life, to keep that clean, to keep that good and transparent and pure.
Well, I love that. I'm glad you jumped in with that. I've never had that analogy before. I think that that's brilliant. One of the things I wanted to kind of chat about is you've gone through a lot of different processes and techniques. What is your favorite or most powerful meditation or breath work practice or anything like that? For me, I would say I'm not a breath work expert. I have tried many different things through martial arts. Mostly it's through sports and athletics because, when you're dying and you don't have any breath, it's like it's a very integral part of your training and understanding. But there's also the spiritual breath patterns and the yoga and all that different thing. What I've kind of said to people, what I like about it is that in meditation, often you can sit there and a lot of beginners will think, well, nothing's happening. Well, breath work, when you do it, it focuses your attention immediately on the breath. And the breath is one thing that you can do to take control of your, is it sympathetic nervous system or parasympathetic, whichever one goes just naturally.
Yeah,
I mix them up.
the parasympathetic is the calming and relaxing. The sympathetic is active. Yeah.
Right. So when we put our attention on it, we can actually change it. And so the breath actually does this. It's a very powerful process. And there's lots of techniques, but even just 3 deep breaths in itself will work. But I'm just curious from your experiences, do you have a favorite or most effective technique for training in mindfulness and mental states of being?
Well, it's going to be a little bit longer answer than you might expect, but because um, with breathwork, and that's the beauty of it, you can both really activate the sympathetic nervous system, so the activeness in your nervous system, or you can activate the calming, rest and digest part of the nervous system. There's a lot of these stronger breathing practices that are very popular right now. Wim Hof breathing and Kundalini breathing and all these things, which are wonderful breathing techniques. They are very activating. The thing is, after you feel a little bit nice and spaced out, and it's very nice and calming and relaxing, but it's also very activating for the mind. So what I've seen a lot is that if people only do this, their mind is a little bit too active and they're a little bit all over the place, it seems, and not very grounded. And those very calming soft breathing techniques, very, very slow breathing, are very good to ground, to center yourself. So my favorite breathing techniques are, for instance, one where it's very activating, where you breathe like, it's called Shit Shakti Prakriya. It's a wonderful technique. And then combining it with right after doing a super calm and slow breathing, so that you breathe as slow as you comfortably can, and not deep, but just super slow. And you learn to make the breathing more fine, more calm, and slower and slower and slower. And this really helps to get into a state of meditation and deep relaxation. Is the dog okay? You can hear it, or?
I can hear it, but it's not too crazy. You know, if you got a dog out
Okay.
there, there's not much we can
No,
do.
it's not my dog.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah,
okay, okay.
you want to continue?
So it's very important for me to combine both a little bit of active breathing technique, just to open up the whole nervous system, the respiratory system, all the system, and then to really slow down and calm down, to center more and more and to go into a state of meditation.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing that with breathing, I was getting at was the sympathetic nervous system. You know, for action and stress, and parasympathetic, calm and relaxation. But we've also got somatic nervous system, which is essentially the same thing, but it's voluntary. And I'm no expert at this. I think a lot of people will be a lot more versed in understanding this. But the autonomic nervous system is involuntary. And so normally, like with our hearts and stuff, it's harder to change our heart rate. We could go run, but we're not consciously telling our heart to do it. With breath, we can actually begin to control that, right? And normally that's just it's done with the autonomic. It's just done when you breathe. It's breathing for you. You don't have to think about it, but you can actually voluntarily do it, which is a very fascinating thing, because it changes the chemistry of your entire body. It's going to change and affect your heart rate. It's going to change and affect your neurology. It's going to go up your central nervous system. All kinds of wild science stuff is going to happen. Like I had, Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about it, and shoot, I'm blanking on his name, from Mind to Matter. Hawkins? No, Dawkins. I think it's Dawkins. I can't remember, one of the two. But he goes into the science of it, which is really interesting. And the challenge I see for a lot of people, and I kind of keep bringing up, is if you feel like you can't change anything, right, and you're stuck, is not true. Just start with even walking. Like every single day, if you can say, you know what, I'm not going to do any mindfulness. I'm not going to do anything weird. I'm just going to get up and I'm going to do a 20-minute walk every single day. Getting outside in nature is pure gold. And we're just so disconnected from a natural way of being. And I can say this for a real world example. When I do these hypnosis experience, I call quantum heart hypnosis. And all it is hypnosis into the heart. So we just put the lens and we relax the mind and body into a state, but we bring in the intelligence of the heart and say, what does the heart want? And you're still there. People think you go out to this other one. It's just looking through world of a different lens. That's all you're doing. So when we look through the lens of our heart and our spirit and our authentic self, every single person that I've done this with wants to be in nature and connected to nature. They want to be doing and living their life purpose, and they know what it is. People know what their life purpose is, but they don't know how to bridge the gap to money. That's the problem, right? It's not so much knowing, it's being able to actually pursue it with all the challenges of the world. But that's your beautiful journey of to do that. You know what I mean? You can figure it out and you'll problem solve that and you'll get there. You just might have to let go of a lot of the things culture and society and everybody told you was important, and the television with, you know, the cars and the money and all that kind of stuff. You might have to let go of that for some sort of time to reconnect with yourself and meaning. And they want a simple life with community, right? And so when we just walk in nature, nature is such a fundamental part of being human. And if you look at these big cities and how people are living in this rush life, you know, we're just so disconnected from that wisdom, from that intelligence, from that communication. And we don't see it as any kind of value. We put our schedules up, right? And there's no time to go for a walk in the park because what is that going to get me? You know what I mean? There's no value there. And I think like just, you know, taking that walk, taking that space, connecting to nature, you're also getting feedback from the environment that is cooperative, that is helpful, that wants to connect with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. What is interesting though, I used to live in big cities as well, like Amsterdam, and um, uh, in a city, it seems like every part is of the city, besides your house or the shop, is to just go from point A to point B. And when people are on a beach or in the park, all of a sudden they feel they are where they can be. But what I used to do a lot, and this is maybe an advice for people, if you feel like, well, but I live in a city and there's no nature and this and that, enjoy going for a walk through the street. There's so many wonderful architecture, and just to, for a moment, instead of being always going from A to B when you're on the street, stand still. Or if you're on a station, just watch the people, watch the flow of creation, watch the cars, just watch life happen, and stand still for a little moment. Don't be part of the constant flow and the constant rush, but step out of that wheel and just watch that wheel for a little moment, and you will see there's beauty actually in everything. There's beauty in city, there's beauty in busy traffic, there's beauty in all of the different elements of nature, of culture as well. It's just whether you can see this or not with your state of mind.
Well, I love that answer. I think that's beautiful. And well, with the architecture, I've been to Amsterdam and you have some extraordinary architecture. And I was riding a bike around getting to check that out and experience it. And that example there just reminds me of engaging with the journey, right? It's like we're at point A and point A is good or where we want to be or where we have to be at sometimes. And then point B, whether it's the park or the cafe or whatever, is the next point where we have to be or we want to be, depending. Hopefully you want to. The more wants, the better. And so, but then everything in between is not worthwhile, right?
Yeah,
It's like, you know,
exactly.
that's no good. And that's taking away basically 98% of it. And I think that that's really brilliant advice. And it just shows that, you know, through that lens of appreciation and awareness, you can notice the beauty, you can notice all these wonderful things, no matter where you are. And I think that that's a fantastic perspective, and something that might be challenging to engage with at some time, and but something that we can come back to. And then the other thing I was going to say is just about Amsterdam, you know, riding the bikes everywhere, you see everything a little bit more slowly, and it's a wonderful experience. And then when you get out and walk, you notice even more detail. So sometimes
Absolutely.
slowing down is the way to go, right? But we're kind of taught or persuaded into speeding up to be more effective, to be more efficient, to get more, you know, and it's kind of flipping it on its head and reminding yourself of that balance.
Absolutely. And it's that comes back again. If there is no space in your mind, and then you always miss out on so many things that every moment has to offer you. So if there's no space in your mind and you feel, okay, I have to go from this appointment to that appointment, and I have to do some shopping, and always going from A to B, and then there's a little bit of time to feel relaxed. Um, to learn to create those little moments of space, if you are waiting, for instance, at the metro station, or if you are waiting at the red light, or if you are just walking through the street, take a little moment, a little break, even if it's just 2 or 3 breaths, to just, okay, where am I now? What am I seeing? Like, take it in you. And when once you create more and more of this space in your mind, or rewire your brain to be able to observe and to see what's happening, the more you do that, the more you are able to have this experience of space in your life, and to see that every moment of your life has some beauty in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So what I'll ask then is like, what do you recommend for people who want to connect with spirit or God or nature? And I think we've covered on this, but I'll ask directly. Spirit, God, or nature, develop their intuition and just have a spiritual connection. What do you recommend for those people?
Well, empty the mind a little bit, and this sounds for a lot of people very cliche. Empty your mind, la di da. But you know this. Most of you listeners, if you close your eyes and you sit, probably the only thing that you experience is your own mind chattering, whether you're doing it correct, or if you still have to do the dishes or get the washing out of the washing machine, or whatever it is. There's constant chattering, and there is no space in your mind to experience the connection, or to experience spirituality. And that is why these wonderful techniques of yoga and qigong and all these wonderful techniques is not just to keep your physical body healthy and strong, which is almost like a wonderful side effect, but it's to learn to, with some breathing and with some movements and with sitting and concentrating, to be able to create a little bit of that space, that stillness of the mind, that you can open yourself up to the experience of a deeper reality. Or actually, it's not even a deeper reality, it is the reality. But the only thing that most of the people are only experiencing is the reality of their own chattering mind and their own judgment about the moment. Like, I want this, but I don't want that. I have to get there, and this I did wrong in the past, or that was nice. Not having stillness to feel the higher state of reality. So I would advise them, yeah, do breathing, breath work, and learn to bring stillness in the mind with meditation and all these things, and then it will come by itself. And one more thing about this is that a lot of people um, are maybe reading a lot about these things, or maybe watching a lot of wonderful podcasts like this one. But if you're not putting it really into practice, it stays a nice theory that sounds very plausible in your mind, but it's not your own experience. So to make it your own experience, you have to dedicate some of your time every day to train your mind and body to be able to experience it, and that it is a reality for you.
Absolutely. Yep. The experience I feel like it is paramount, for how we're going to engage in this, because you could read an entire book but not put the practice in. The same with breath work or meditation and things like that. Just practice and kind of let go of the result, because you'll start with the monkey mind and things like that, but you'll get better. Just like anything, if you try to play the piano and you've never played, you're going to be brutal. It's a very difficult instrument. Even with the guitar, it's a little bit simpler than the piano, but it's still very challenging just to do a few chords at first, and it's going to take a longer time to master. What about the concept of letting go? I feel like that's going to be a big one for a lot of people, because we're in this massively transformative time right now, and there's no certainty. There never was before, but we had more of an illusion of certainty. It was kind of like more certain. Now so we realize that everything is uncertain. So what have you learned about the process of letting go and engaging in life fully? Because when I'm coaching a lot of people, that's a big deal of it, is like, you got to let go of this idea that it doesn't hold the same weight, right? The reward that you kind of was being positioned for you, it's not as exciting as it might be if you get it. You know what I mean? It might be missing the substance of who you are. And if you redirected and you reevaluated what was most important to you, what your values are, what you truly care about, what you want to experience, what you would do if you had a day, a week, or a year to live. How would you begin to spend your time, and what things would you be doing? And when you really sit down and contemplate with those questions, one just holds so much more weight. And that will require letting go of something that other people and other influences in society have told you that you wanted, but then you see it, and it's then you got to now make that choice. You know what I mean? Just like a lot of the easy choices. I just did a great interview with Arthur Coombs, and he wrote a book called The Hard Easy, or something like that. Hard Easy. Yeah. And he's basically like, you can make the easy choice of, sitting on the couch and waking up at 10 a.m. and eating crappy food. But you're gonna have a hard consequence later. Right. Or you can do the hard thing now, which might be getting up and take care of your body, even though the mind's saying I don't want to. But then it's going to be easier later. You're going to have more flow. You're going to have more happiness. You're going to have more alignment. You're going to have more integrity within your being, feeling like you didn't compromise. And so, but again, that requires a lot of letting go. And I'd love for you to speak on that concept.
Yeah, it's learning to let go also sometimes mean to let be first. And this is something, it is with meditation that you really learn. First, learn to observe your own chattering mind, learn to calm it with the breath, and learn to recognize, like, okay, there is a lot of chattering in my mind. There is a feeling of feeling a bit of negativity or feeling down, but there is also something within you which is listening to that. So instead of trying to think like, okay, I should let go of these thoughts, I should not think about this, or I should not feel like that, or but maybe it does not go. Even if you try to let it go, it does not go. So let it be. That's how I feel now. I feel a bit of sadness within, or there's so much chattering in my mind, I feel that. So what is observing that state of being, or what is listening to your chattering mind? It is like a higher self or a deeper self. And then you can start to a bit give accept a little bit more, bring a little bit more kindness. And once you can do that with yourself within, you will also be able to do that with other people. You will be able to not always try to control other people, what they say about you or how they think about you, or you can let it go. Okay, he or she thinks about me like this or that. I don't have to get angry with that. I keep it with that person. I keep my own peace and that connection with the true self, that higher self, and I accept it. And then you will see, you will break that relationship, not the actual relationship, but you break the the friction you have in that relationship, and you can let go instead of feeding it by trying to change it. That goes even further. Once you start to be able to completely accept yourself, completely be able to let be and also let go, you can do that also for the world as a whole. And you understand, okay, the way of this world, the way of this layer of reality, there is friction. That is that layer of reality, the dimension that we are in now, as you are experiencing this life now. So you can start to accept, like, okay, that's the way of the world. That is how things go. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to follow orders or this or that. I keep with myself, but I accept it. And then you keep that light within yourself shining, and that connection with the source. Because as soon as you start to get angry or frustrated, or you become the darkness that you are trying to fight. So learning to create that acceptance first with your own heart, with your own mind, then in your smaller surroundings, and then in the bigger surroundings, and understanding that reality has its flow, has its way, this dimension of duality, of friction that we are in. There is also, in a bigger level, at the source level, the unity in it. I hope you understand a bit what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with the world one right now, it's a reminder and it's a challenge, right? Because of all the wild stuff going on. And the one thing that we can control is how we respond, in our own states of being. And that's the real important thing, to recognize that we can choose how. I think, as Viktor Frankl's quote, "Man's search for meaning," is like the last of the human freedoms is one's ability to choose, your perspective in any given situation. And that's what we're dealing with on a mastery level right now. And the more we can be in the states of acceptance, right, with for what is, and empowerment. And it doesn't mean checking out, right? And I think that your view is balanced, because some people are kind of checking out and they disregard it. What's going on is, no, you accept it for what it is, but you allow your way of being to still be in congruence and in harmony. And if there's a choice that you need to make, you can make that choice. It's what I've learned a lot through martial arts. If you get in a dangerous situation, you can't put your head in the sand, but the more aware you are and the more calm you are in your way of being, you're going to find a solution and a way out of it or around it. And that's what your constitution is. Your way of being is to move to peace, to go to peace, inner peace and outer peace, and to quell conflict, and to be that example in the world. And the more of us that can be that, the more important, because there's a lot of things going on right now, but our states of being and the way that we treat each other and what we do in the world is more important than ever. And I feel like our vocations and how we spend our time, right, to just really simplify, to connect with people we love, to come back to being human, because what we're moving towards is less and less human, more and more
Absolutely.
artificial.
I think it's important to also to ask yourself, and then we come back again to where do you put your focus on. Don't forget to also put your focus on the light. If we look at it on a more energetic way, there is on the one hand a very strong desire to take control, but then on the other hand, there is a strong flow towards mental liberation in humanity. But on the other hand, like I said, there is a desire to control. Be part of the mental liberation, and not because you're trying to fight the part of the control, but because you're focusing a lot of your time also on the light within, not only doing meditation and breathwork, all these things, but also keeping the focus on what is still good in life, how much you can mean for other people, how much you can give to other people in kindness or attention, all these things. Because the tricky thing is, in this situation now, you can bring so much focus as a person to the negative part, and watching a lot of the news, or watching a lot of videos, or watching this or watching that, you will cultivate the 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 darkness a little bit inside of yourself as well, because you're putting so much of your energy and focus towards it. And I think if and I strongly believe that if humanity will focus as much time on the news and all these things, instead of focusing their time on watching the news and videos and all these things, on training their mind and heart, then a big shift will happen in the world. And this is kind of also for yourself maybe as well, but my mission to help people as a global consciousness, as a global humanity, to tap into that power within, to connect with that light within, and to start shining it. So the more you connect with that light, the brighter it becomes. The more you focus on the darkness of the world, the more that light within yourself, you forget that you need to feed that as well, and to keep that shining. Because I think if you look at it as a duality of one part darkness and control, other part liberation and light, uh, it won't be won by controlling the darkness. It will be won by shining the light so strong that there is no room for darkness anymore.
Wow. Amazing. Well, I absolutely love that, and I feel like it's a personal message for me. It's something that I've been challenged with since the beginning of this, is to know the truth of it, but not get lost in it. And I'm reminded of that quote. It's if you stare long enough into the darkness, it'll start to stare back. Something along those lines. And it's a very low place. It's a very scary place. And where I've come to it, in my perspective, is that we need to understand it if there is a threat, if there is deception, if there is this going on, but not to get locked in it, right? So if you look at percentages, if you spend all day, every day staring into the darkness, you're going to get a negative vibrational and internal effect. You're going to be so consumed with this fear that you're not going to be operating at your full capability. So just being very mindful of how much time that you're putting there and how much you can handle, and more time to cultivating your inner power, your inner strength. So if you have a clean mind, a clean body, you are, your thoughts are good, you feel good, you're very healthy, you eat well, you're going to be empowered for something, that might be challenging. So if we look at in history, when wars have happened or all these different things happen, or I particularly like the samurai, in other cultures, if they knew a war would come, they didn't stick in fear. They trained, they mastered their body. And if they had to make that choice, even in that battle, they would be calm, because the second they freak out and get stuck in fear, something negative is going to happen. But they continue to project and hope peace to protect the village. You know what I mean? And that's a powerful state of being. And you can really easily get locked into despair. And I feel like that solution is understanding it's there. That's the challenge for me. It's like, okay, look, we understand it's there. Great. Just understand it enough to know what you need to build the solution is. And so who it's with, who you need to be, what you need to do, and focus 90% of your time there, because unraveling each layer of detail of that negative force or that negative influence or some of the things that are going on may not be as useful as cultivating the strength and the practices and the
Absolutely.
inner knowing and the inner being on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because, like you say, staring into the darkness long enough, it will stare back at you. That's very interesting, because you will get feeling of frustration, of anger, of maybe even a fear, of all these things. And these are dark states, But you're cultivating it unknowingly within, because you keep focusing so much on it. And it's good to know the truth. Don't get me wrong, and it's good to know, but also to sometimes let go and say, okay, that's the way of the world. Maybe for now, I don't agree with it. I will, in the choices that I can make, I won't go with it. But if I look at it, sometimes I sometimes some days I don't watch news. I switch everything off. I don't watch anything, and then I think, how much of my daytime am I really um, confronted with this situation? And it's maybe only when I go to the supermarket to buy some food that I have to wear a mask. But the rest of the day, when I'm at home with my kids, or when I just walk in the park, or maybe I see some people with masks, okay, but I'm not really confronted with it unless I put my type of focus on it, that I start to think about it. Or when I'm eating my food, I think about the situation, about COVID, all these things. Um, only then. So it's for a great part also my choice, how I'm using my awareness and my energy, what I'm focusing it on. And I try to be very aware of that, to keep it focused a lot on the moment, where I am here and now, and onto the light, and cultivating the light within and not the darkness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you're at a stage where you've made it to the other side already, so to speak. And by that, I mean you're living your life intentionally, right? You're not in a place where you're trying to get away from your life. You're in the pursuit of living that. And just like your accident, it shows a lot of people need a challenge or a catalyst or harm to move that direction. And we're getting a planetary catalyst to say, okay, look, this life outer world is forcing you to look at all your decision and choices and what you think is important, and to move in a different direction. And that's going to be up to you. And that's what this is inviting us towards. I feel like a solution. If all of us learn to let go of all of the artificial, came back to really connecting to who we are, who we came here to be, found like-minded people, and then look to give value to other people, how we can give back, how we can support, how we can help. It's a totally different way of being. But right now, culturally, it's all about what I can get. And so that's part of that waking up process. But then you're gonna have to let go of a lot. But it's much more freeing on the other side. It's much more honest. It's much more has much more integrity and truth to it, because there is a truth. You know what I mean? And if you're going around trying to just get things, there is a cost. You know, and we
Absolutely.
need to look at those balances and ways of being, and we can be guided with this. We can fight it, right? Some people are saying, oh, this isn't going to happen and it's going to go back to normal. Probably not, because there is an agenda from certain people who want something to happen, but it can be our choice to move that, right? When you learn about germ theory versus terrain theory and the power of the body, you're not concerned. I'll just assume you're not concerned about coronavirus or many other diseases, because you know the power of the body. And that's empowerment, right? So you knew that. It's like, oh, there's all these crazy things out there, infinite diseases, germs, cancer. And you're like, well, I don't fear of those. If I have, I understand the power of my body. And then I've also probably grieved my death and understand that my life is not permanent and there is something greater. So at that point, I'm going to have all the tools and capability to deal with this situation, even though it might be challenging. But the chances of that happening are very unlikely, because of the way that I live my life, because of how integrated I am, because of my connection. And then you're empowered. And so that's what we need to move towards. It's because we've kind of like moved toward the government being our daddy. You know, it's like, I think in the Bible, I'm going through a lot of this natural law, common law stuff, and or no, common law versus maritime law. And in the Bible, it goes back and it says you can't serve two masters. And one of them is the government, where we just obey and we don't question and we fall in line, and the government gives us everything that we need. Or it's God, spirit, the universe, and nature coming back to empower our connection with everything. You know, empower ourselves, our connection with spirit, our connection with the animals, our connection with each other, and that beautiful resonance. And we do have that connection and power, but it's kind of getting severed through these illusionary kind of hooks or lures to bring us into this false system. You know, oh, this car is a little bit bigger and shinier. So what are you going to have to sacrifice to get that, right? How much time, how much focus, right? You know, in these jobs that don't feel fulfilling for you, you spend 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week doing something that doesn't fulfill you. That's most of your life. And that's something that I could never wrap my head around. And I think you are the same way, the way you navigated life. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why would I give the majority of my life to do something I don't want to do? That's what slavery is. And so we need to have that hard talk with ourselves to figure out, well, what would we do if we were free? What would we do if we were retired? What would we do if we could do anything? And then move towards that, because you'll find it usually doesn't take as much money as you think. It takes ingenuity and time and commitment and letting go of all this falsity. And so I'd love for you to speak on any of that.
Yeah, it's realizing that richness has nothing to do with how much possessions you have. Richness is an experience within yourself, and that can be in any moment, as you experience yourself when you were traveling around the world, probably in Nepal and all these places. Some of these people are very poor. They have nothing. They have a chicken. They have not even a door in their house and a tin roof. Um, but they're happy, you know. They're content. They can share their meal with you, and they are much richer than people that are still complaining that their super yacht is not finished in time when they want to go to the Bahamas or whatever it is, right? So richness is an abundance that happens within you. It's an experience of the soul, and learning to feel that it doesn't matter where you are in your life, what situation, you can still feel contentment and connection. And that is also, if we come to biblical phrases like be part of the world, uh, be in the world, but don't be part of the world. be in this whole thing that is happening, and be in the world, but you don't have to be part of that rat race, of that craziness, of that almost polluted way of thinking and treating each other. Stay connected with uh, a, a deeper connection with life. And this goes a little bit too theoretical for some people, but realizing that, okay, you have a physical body, you have energy that flows through the nervous system in the form of electric energy and other types of chemical energies. You're a body of energy, but you're also consciousness. And on a deepest level, you are connected with the great spirit, with God, with nature, with life. And if you can realize that and feel that connection that is there within, it doesn't matter if in your outside life, outside world, if it's not the optimum condition, you will keep that connection with the spirit within. And then there is always the sense of richness and connectedness, even if the world turns completely upside down and goes crazy. So learning to kind of learn to make that connection within, that is deep within the heart or the consciousness or within yourself, that you can um, kind of take a step back out of the world, what is happening in the world, and the whole culture and society, and recognize, okay, that's what's happening. I can flow with it and use it in a way. I can uh, accept some things. I don't go along and agree with the things that some of the things that are happening, but I can keep that connection within myself with the great spirit within.
Oh man. Well, I love all that. I think it's very well said and beautifully put. This has been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I feel like the perspectives are simple and they can be challenging to implement, and at the same time they're true, and you will experience those things, and it's an endless work of progress, and so to go at it with a state of curiosity and joy and ease with yourself as you move towards these new ways of being. But they are true if you contemplate what you said, and these things, they're true. They just are true. And so now the journey and the how to is for each of us our own way. And if we can kind of commit to those ways of being and say, this is important to us, this is important to myself, my connection, then we'll get closer to that resonance. We'll get closer to that way of being. So, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything that you wish that I'd asked or that you'd like to speak about before we end the conversation?
I just hope that people that are listening now to this conversation are going to put it into practice, right? Otherwise, it's all more theory for the mind, and you think like, yeah, really nice, really, or maybe you don't agree with it, of course. But uh, if you're not going to do the practice for yourself, it will stay a theory and a nice theory up in the mind here, but not integrated in your experience of this reality. And therefore, I would highly recommend start doing meditation and breath work. And if you're interested, maybe Matt puts a link to my website. Do a 7 days. I have the 7 day program that in 7 days you learn a couple of these techniques to integrate this into your life. Some simple breathing and movement techniques. And you will see, if you dedicate yourself, even if it's just for 7 days in these practices, it will really change your whole way you experience life. And yeah, do something, or with another teacher, or whatever type of breathing technique or something, as long as you do something and act upon the theory that you know, and not just keep it a theory.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And you said it at the beginning, you said just make that commitment, do something each day. And yeah, check out, your programs are incredibly reasonably priced, and there's a lot of information there. And I love going through everything. I go through, all the personal development stuff. And that's how I've gained my knowledge, is that when somebody tells me they have a technique, I do the crap out of it. I meditated for months. You know what I mean? I tried the cold training. I do it all just to know what it does. And once you have the experience, then you're gaining the knowledge and wisdom. So you actually have to put it into practice. And, I haven't seen your 7-day thing in particular, but it's such a great, I would recommend people check it out because, I'm not about quick fixes. And at the same time, I know that 7 days is enough to have an experience. If you do a 7-day fast, guess what? You're going to have an experience. If you do 7 days of just the cleanest diet, no sugar, no salt, no meat, no dairy, just like fruits and just so clean, in 7 days, you're going to feel that. You're going to actually think differently. And that's another key is food. You know what I mean? You eat super clean for 7 days, you will think differently. We have all these toxins and poisons and watching the news and your mental nutriments. You do any of that you shut off the TV and social media for 7 days, you will have an experience. And that's why just go into that, check it out and commit to that. You know what I mean? And then you're doing something and then try something else. Even if you went in and you got no value, which would not happen, you know what I mean? And you said, oh, this is bogus, you would still have knowledge to get you to the next step. Even if you went in and was like, this is total nonsense, none of it worked. If you committed to 7 days to that complete nonsense, you would be further along. So it's not about the right way or the perfect way. It is about something. And, so I totally agree. And I can see that value. And then what that does is set the spark and the initial flame to go try again, to try more, to do something else, to integrate that way of practice. Almost like the whole world, I think it's the simplest example. The whole world is out of shape and, they're unhealthy and have low energy. And you're like, hey, walk every single day for 20 minutes and eat some fruits and vegetables, and nobody in the world eats fruits and vegetables. And then all of a sudden in 7 days, like, what is this? And then we need to do that for our mental and emotional and spiritual well-being. And it's not a common or celebrated or important part of many cultures. And that's why we feel incomplete, depressed, disconnected. It is because of our way of our life and our culture. And then we can choose new practices and ways of being to feel a different way. But it requires our participation.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's interesting because you see it a lot in the in a lot of cultures, in the Christian culture, in the Islamic culture. There are periods of times where you do some fasting, or you don't eat certain types of food, and you only eat healthy. It was integrated in our whole culture, but suddenly, and now this culture that we have now, which is void of spirituality, and we forget all about these practices. So, like you say, even if it's just 7 days, even if it's 3 days, do something, and you will feel like, hey, it made a little change. And then, but at least then you notice, like, okay, it did something, or you got some more new ideas. Just experiment with these things and do something, and make changes in your habitual patterns in life. It will bring you wonderful good things for sure.
100%. It opens the door a crack. It and that's everything. Slavery is when you think you only have one option. If you have two options, that automatically means you have infinite options, because that second option can then mutate and transform into infinity. And so that's what that does. It gives that second option, which gives you freedom of possibility. And so I loved all this. This has been wonderful. Where do people go to connect with you or follow your work? Where's the best place?
You can look on Yoga Lab with LAP, Yoga Lab, LAP, from the Life Awareness Project. This project is called, and or Michaël Bijker at on Instagram or Facebook, all these things. You can look there, and like I said, if some of you are listening and you cannot afford to pay a course, just send us a mail. You can get it for free. But of course, if you can afford it, please, it's just $10 US or $11 for most of the courses. Very low price. Hopefully you can take some time to do that. And Matt, thank you very much for having me on your show. Keep inspiring the lives of many people, and keep dropping little seeds life and light into the lives of people, and that together we can, everybody that's listening, that's doing these practices, we can make the world shine a little bit by lighting up the source of light within.
Beautiful. Well, this has been a pleasure. I appreciate you. We'll definitely stay in touch, and thank you everybody for watching. Check out the courses. Like I said, they're all incredibly reasonably priced, and because I went through your programs, and they're very well done. So just thank you for your work. I appreciate you.
Peace and love.
See you guys.